It's time for Who Watch, Time and Relative Blackness in Space.
The black girls have the box.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana and Connie coming to you live from the Time Vortex. Robin is off in the Hereticum reading all of the banned books, and I mean all of them, but she'll be back next week. But I won't, so it's kind of bittersweet.
Someone's been missing for the past, month,
Yeah.
so it's fine. Maybe
Are you the only
months, but
consistent?
That's why we have 3 codes.
No, you missed one too.
No, I missed one. Yeah. Today we're discussing episode 11 of Doctor Who Season 10, World Enough and Time. In this episode, the Doctor tests Missy, Bill is upgraded, and Nardole literally does nothing. There's literally no reason for him to be there.
Just the most...
There was a moment where he complains that he doesn't get to do anything.
That's about it.
How little he does.
Just, so, before we start, just know that we have a lot of feelings, and I'm mostly confused, and I'm trying to remain hopeful, but this episode, y'all, why? Why? Just, I have a lot of questions, but most of them are just why.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm a little annoyed.
Yeah, but mostly just why. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we should get into it so that we can explain why we're so upset. Well, even though you've all watched the episode if you're listening to this podcast, so you're probably also upset. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, let's start with things that aren't the thing that we're mostly upset about.
Great.
If that makes any sense.
Makes total sense to me.
Cool. So the episode starts off with the Doctor regenerating in the snow by himself. We don't really know when this is happening because, immediately then we go... I don't even know, do they tell us that they're in the past? No, it's the... that happens, and then the theme song and whatever in the credits.
And then the, epic spaceship shot or whatever. But it didn't have the, timestamp. I don't think it had the timestamp like it normally does.
Mm-hmm, and so, I assume it was later, unless he's doing, again, the world's longest regeneration, which would be fine. But I'm assuming this is, that was happening, and then they went back.
Yeah. And that it was his choice, because he seems to be, against it. But he did, put up regeneration lights in that episode when Bill pretend shot him. So it's what's real? I don't know what's real anymore because of that. But also, why are they showing us this now? It doesn't... I guess in terms of the episode, it's we know this is coming as an audience because... Peter Capaldi is leaving. Everyone knows this. So I'm just really... I guess they're trying to tell us that it's going to happen at the end of this two-parter as opposed to at Christmas.
The Christmas special?
But it still was a weird, hey, here's him regenerating. Then the rest of the episode, none of that matters. It's just, I don't know. It was a weird... story choice that it's okay, I mean, I get it, but also you didn't tell us anything we didn't already know, and you didn't tease anything that I wasn't expecting, so this whole episode was kind of just what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the regenerating thing, I feel I get it as a narrative, tactic, right, where you're I'm gonna show you the end, and then we're gonna show you how you got here.
But we know that...
that makes sense to me, but I think that, teasing it at this point is kind of, whatever, because, like you said, we know it's going to happen. And... in
this instance, that narrative device doesn't work. I think that... have we not used it all season? I feel like we've used it before this season, but I can't remember right now. But... yeah, it doesn't work in this particular instance, where it's here's the end,
not
and
for
then
regeneration, I don't think.
Oh, no, I just mean in general of, here's a thing, and then 3 days before...
yeah, that's happened.
Yeah, so it's why... I don't know. I kind of was okay, shrug, and then the episode happened, and then I was why anger face? But yes,
Indeed.
There's snow, so that also kind of implies Christmas. So I don't know when. It doesn't clarify when it is either, because I guess Christmas could technically start immediately from whatever happens next week, but and that explains the snow or whatever. But I don't know, and I wonder if we'll see who the companion is. I mean, who the new doctor is before next week's episode is up. But I feel like they have a lot to fit in next week, so I don't know where they would squeeze it into.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
We're both very like, you already like crapped on Bill, so.
I think that like when I was first starting the episode, I was like more interested in that. And on the tail end of the episode, I'm less interested.
Let's try to get there. Let's get there. So yeah, go ahead.
So the doctor, so like once that happens and then we get past the credits and all that kind of stuff in the actual episode, Missy, Bill, and Nardole are on this like spaceship that's kind of, it looks like it's falling into a black hole, and then they like realize that it's trying to like go away from it. So basically and then we find out like the doctor is still in the TARDIS. He's just like observing, so he's testing Missy, which just to like see if she can like be good and like actually save people.
I mean, he could have picked some lower stakes situation than this. Like, go find a cat in a tree, thinking, right? Like, and see if Missy. You gotta start small, man.
Or at least, at the very least, like something that you've already cased out and kind of know what the situation is. Not just dropping someone in a situation where it's clearly like not, like you don't know. Yeah. And I guess maybe that's the point of like the doctor, is he drops into situations and he has no context for what stuff is. But I think like,
but when it's a test, he should know.
And then it's a test, and then also like he's notorious for going places and thinking, oh, it'll be fine, and then it's like not fine. So I think just that was kind of careless of him, and then to like not physically be out there, like he jumped out when things were clearly going bad, but you can still test someone and like be there.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, you don't have to stay. So that, I thought that was, it was reckless.
Yes.
I did appreciate Missy. Like, I always appreciate Missy. And, like, literally all the quotes I had
literally the entire
were from her.
Like, the entire like, first part of that episode was just Missy having joke on joke on joke, but they were all brilliant and, like, hilarious, and her delivery is perfect. I knew that something bad was happening in this episode. Like, just people's reactions on Twitter, because I couldn't watch it live. Like, your reactions and then other people's on Twitter were like, yeah, about that episode. But it started off with Missy, and I was like, well, I know this is about to go really bad, and I'm about to be really upset. But for right now, I'm laughing, because it's hilarious. So, I mean, they used the humor.
Yeah, and she was great. And I think
they used the humor to balance out what was to come. And it did distract me, even though I kind of knew something bad was about to happen. So I also appreciated Missy at the beginning, at least.
Yeah, and I liked her Mary Poppins little thing.
I missed it. I have to go back.
Going on. Like, she had her umbrella and the hat, and she was, like, running around and, like...
Missy Poppins.
It reminded me of season 8, where she literally, like, descends into a graveyard with an umbrella. Like, literally floats down.
Yep.
Into a graveyard with an umbrella. And so I was like, that's a cool little, like, throwback a little bit. I was also wondering if the umbrella was Sonic. I actually have no idea, but there were, like, moments where shit was happening where the doctor was pointing his screwdriver like he does, as if it's gonna do anything. And then she was pointing her umbrella, but I didn't hear anything, so I just wasn't sure. I was like, is it Sonic, or does she just have this umbrella that she's just, like, waving around?
That would be amazing. I would love a Sonic umbrella.
Maybe that's why she could float down the first time.
This is later, but the Dr. Sonic screwdriver became a marker, and I was like, that's the best thing I've seen.
Oh, I missed that.
I think that's, I mean, unless I blinked.
What did he use it on?
When he was, like, drawing the description of, like, what's happening with the spaceship. He, like, undoes the Sonic, and it makes, like, the Sonic noise, but then it's a marker, and he starts drawing on the board. Which is also funny because...
I did not peep that.
For people who watch The Flash, they're literally always trying to explain time and space on a white, like, on a clear glass board with like a marker. So it was sort of like, oh, I've seen that before.
Totally. I appreciated, I will say, the ship was lit. Like, I actually, like, when they explained that, I was like, this is amazing.
It would have been so much cooler if
awesome.
It wasn't for the rest of the episode. Like, I also was like, wait, at the top and at the bottom is different times. Like, they could have explored that, like, much more, and I would have enjoyed even the way that they did explain it in terms of, like, oh, snap, if you watch this security video, they're frozen because they're moving so much slower if it weren't for the bill of it all. Like, it was a really cool concept, and then you ruined it by, really like, trying to kill... We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. Because then it felt like... Because it didn't feel urgent, is what it is. Somehow... And I know, I'm not there yet, but the problem was, like, the time moving faster on one side than the other. We've also seen that before in The Girl Who Waited, when Amy ended up in the other thing and she was there for 40 years or
most
whatever.
of this episode is Girl Who Waited and callbacks, basically. Right.
But it didn't feel urgent.
Yes. There was...
Like, it didn't... Like, I know they were trying to, like, get to Bill and everything. But on her end, she's sitting around, she's talking to people, she's like trying to figure out how to get out, she's watching the doctor. And then on their end, it just felt like maybe it was the pacing and like obviously yes, time is moving faster and like in different like speeds or whatever, sure. But time's not moving different on our end, so the pacing shouldn't be off. And it felt like something was missing where it felt like they weren't rushing.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe it was the doctor for me. Like,
absolutely. He was way too chill.
He felt like he was... he felt like he was just on any other...
The minute he figured out...
adventure, like, he didn't just see what the fuck... Like, he didn't just see Bill get a whole...
Right, no, the minute he figured out, like, without talking about the Bill aspect of it, if we're staying at the top of the ship, he comes out, she gets shot, she gets taken away, and he has to explain to the person who shot her. We'll talk about it later.
To the person who
we'll talk about it later.
Dude,
wait, hold up.
That dude hold up. You didn't punch that dude in the face. I'm sorry. I'm like,
We're trying. We're gonna get there. We're gonna do this in order because it's the best way to keep our rage in check. So that happens, and I have like real deep feelings about that we'll get to later. But he talks to this guy, and he figures out what's happening with the ship, but then doesn't move any faster. Like, they go towards the door, but that should have been a rush towards the door. Like, the music should have amped, like, oh no, Bill is gonna be down there for a very long time, we don't know how long it is, and we don't know who's down there with her, so it's like, if she's down there for years by herself within your 10 seconds, or 10 minutes or whatever, then you should be going fast, trying to get down there faster. And I get it, the elevator is a slow elevator, but like, by the time they walked over to the elevator, and if they had done the thing where it's like, oh snap, we gotta rush to the elevator, and then a cut to being in the elevator and it going really slow, that would have been a comedic jump and like an understandable like pacing. Like, that would have been an interesting thing to see, as opposed to, oh, okay, you need to know what's going on? Here we go. Here's a marker. Let me draw the spaceship. And on this end, oh, you don't get it? Let me explain it again. Okay, here's what's going on. And then they walk off. Like, that literally was 10 years of Bill's life and mine. Right. So the pacing was definitely off.
Like, when it was explained the first time, I was like, oh, cool, that's awesome.
And it doesn't help the doctor's character in this episode. Like, his sort of like chillness about what happened to Bill is kind of unnerving and upsetting, because it's sort of like, okay, I'll get her in a minute.
Like,
what?
As someone who literally was about to rip apart all of time and space for fucking Clara Oswald.
Yeah.
Like, he had to forget her in order to not rip apart the entire universe. Mm-hmm. But he's just moseying on down to the elevator like he's just going to the dentist appointment. No.
Homegirl had a hole in her chest. Anyway, we gotta.
Yeah.
So the pacing definitely did not help with understanding their choices, the characters, all both the characters and the writers in this episode. So that's the top of the ship. So what happens next? We kind of so Bill gets shot and taken away, and we have a whole section called Bill Feels. If this is your first episode listening to us. So we will get there, we promise. But so Bill's taken away, they're trying to explain how the ship works. And then we also it was at the same time we get this montage of Bill saying, I told you that this was a bad idea. And again, we'll get to the Bill aspect of that part later, but they have a montage of like them hanging out, and then it's paralleled, and it kind of hurt with Bill like passing out and waking up downstairs. So she wakes up and she's like, oh snap, doctor? And she like hears his like, ooh, wait for me, which is also like, girl, who waited? We get it.
Wait, and for why? For what?
But
you're the one who never.
But Bill meets Mr. Razor, and now I was slow.
Who was like a weird ass dude.
Yes. Now I was slow and didn't get it. So in the agenda, Bayana, starts with B, sorry, was like, it was clearly the master. And I was like, for me, it wasn't the master, but by the time the reveal happened, I was over it because of what else had happened. So I was like, oh, of course it's the master. Like, I was surprised for it to be him because I wasn't thinking it was him the whole time, but the surprise was dulled because of everything else that was happening. But as I was thinking about this episode, I was like, wait, I did realize it was the doctor. Here's why. So Bill wakes up, she's like on the bed, after they like did whatever they did to her heart that we never got to see. She's like, she sees like the image of the doctor, and then she says his name, and then we see Mr. Razor. So that was clue 1. But then clue 2 that I didn't realize was he said something and he was just like, ha, a clever lie. That was the most doctor phrasing, and I was like, that sounded like the doctor. But for some reason, stupid me, maybe it's because I was in a place of like, what's happening to Bill? Everyone's been warning me about this episode. Like, maybe I was distracted. But I said that was very doctor phrasing, and then doodle-doodle-doo, kept watching the episode like I didn't... Why didn't my brain make the connection?
No, I like, I knew that he was gonna be in the episode.
I'd forgotten. So by the time we were like,
the like
3/4 in,
that they had on his face,
by the time we were,
looked a lot like John Sim to me. Like they didn't do very much to disguise his face. So in my head, I was like, oh, that's the master.
Oh, I thought it was just a whole different
Bill
actor.
Clearly doesn't know that because she doesn't even know, like she didn't meet the master before, and so I was just kind of like. Yeah, it looks like him. It looks like him with some hair and like a little like his facial features are slightly changed.
I didn't make that. Yeah, I didn't make that connection because I thought they just had a different actor and then he pulled his face off and then it was John Sims. I thought it was just like a different person, which it could have been. I didn't look it up. But like 3/4 into the episode,
but he's trying to like.
I was like, well, isn't this the episode where John Sims supposed to appear? So I was just slow the whole. I was sleepy. It was an hour ago from our recording, but I was still sleepy.
That is real. I mean, and like, I think for one of the things was like, he was trying to, I don't really know if he was trying to convince Bill, like, that what they were doing was right? Because he didn't tell her outright at all that they were turning people into Cybermen. It was really clear, though, from the beginning.
That, absolutely.
Like, when she went into that room and she heard the dude, like, just, pressing that button and it kept saying pain. I was like, that sounds like a Cyberman. Yeah. Or, like, when, just, like, kind of the ways that, like, he was explaining to her what they were doing, and he was like, oh, they're gonna become strong. They've got to become better to be, so that we can make the Exodus. But was never saying upgrade. It was always, like, synonyms for that.
I think they did say it once.
Like, nah, yeah, they're... But it was, like, it was, like, towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Like, once it was, like... Okay, we know we've been just kind of teasing this to y'all, but, like, we know, everybody knows it's basically Cyberman at this point. Yeah.
So the Master is here.
So I think, like, yes. So the Master is here. Man, I knew I didn't like that master. I've never liked that master.
Yeah, I kind of saw his face and was sort of expecting like a better reaction to have seen it, especially since I was kind of surprised by the reveal. I was like, oh, no wonder. That makes it, like, everything kind of clicked, and I was like, well, duh. But also, oh, snap, at the same time, somehow. But I wasn't like, hey, look, a face from the past. I was just sort of like, okay.
I mean, I appreciated that. And I've been excited for Johnson Sim to come because I appreciate, like, especially, you know, it's timey-wimey, so having, like, more than one Time Lord in the same place. It's usually the Doctor. So I was like, I'm excited for that, and I think it'll be, like, fun, and also, you know, bringing, again, this is only the second season that they actually acknowledge that seasons 1 through 4
Absolutely, I was just about to say that. I was like, this is the second, this is the only, wait, besides River, this is the only character from 1 through 4?
No.
Or no?
Nope. Well, it's the only character, but what I'm saying is that it's the second time, well, not including River, it's the second time that they
acknowledge any of plot
that those things happen.
Like,
so, like,
plot-wise,
in season
right?
9. So season 9, when they were in the Viking thing, and then there was a flashback because it was like, you know, dude's face has been in Doctor Who before, and they keep talking about it, but no one wants to acknowledge that the 9th and 10th Doctors happened. And then they finally, like, made that connection with Donna and Pompeii, and I was like, yes. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, finally, because it's been 4 seasons, and no one has ever mentioned the fact that,
anything
like,
of those things,
all these other things have happened. And so that was one of the reasons I was excited about Johnson showing up, because I was just like, it'll be more like nods, and it'll kind of like tie the universe together a little bit tighter, and like the Doctor's world a little bit tighter. But it was also confusing.
Yep.
Like, I had a lot of questions about it.
Yes.
Like, at first I was like, okay, cool, he's gonna reveal himself to her, and obviously, like, I mean, it was weird that she didn't remember, well, no, that's not true. I got that she didn't, understand, no, actually, no. I'm not sure why she didn't remember this.
Missy,
and, like, at first, initially, I was like, maybe it's because of, like, the timelines, right? Because, you know, in Day of the Doctor, like, David Tennant and the War Doctor, like, they didn't remember what happened after, but those were the two, right? Like, 11 remembered, because it was, like, he was the latest in the timeline, and so it was his timeline, and he just couldn't remember for the other ones or something. It was, like, it's a paradox or whatever, and it had to correct itself. So the War Doctor didn't remember. But I also thought they were... Which means the 9th Doctor didn't remember.
I thought they were also purposefully suppressing it. So that's why they didn't remember.
No, it was like time was like was out of whack, right? So then the TARDIS had to fix it. And by doing that, you had to like wipe the memory so that they didn't remember. But I think for 11, he got to retain it because he was
but afterwards, yes.
Right?
But he didn't remember
and
before
so, like,
that.
In the Day of the Doctor, like, and with 11, he, like, vaguely remembered it as things were happening. Like, in the part where, like, the Fez comes through the wormhole, and he's like, I remember this. Nah, we can't do this right now.
Well,
you know
I thought
what I mean?
he was remembering...
He still didn't know what was happening, but it was, like, it was, like, a deja vu.
Well, I thought he was remembering because it was literally happening to 10 right then. So then it was being input to his mind, like, right in that moment. And not, like, he remembered the whole time. This is reminding me of... Oh, never mind. It was a Flash thing that I was remembering. And it was stupid. So we don't got to talk about it. There was a similar, like, thing with that.
But, like,
anyway.
so I was confused then because of this, right? Because I was like...
Yeah, they're clearly going to have to go into why, like, all of the explanation as to why she doesn't remember.
I was just like, how does he know about her? So, like, he came to her and was like, you don't remember me? That's weird. And then when he finally revealed himself, he was like, I'm concerned about my future. Which is like, sure. But how do you know about her in the first place? How do you know what's going to happen if it hasn't happened
has it been for you? Where have you been? What have you been doing? But, like, how long has it been since the last time we saw you? I'm pretty sure
this is right, because he mentioned being Prime Minister. So, but then no, because he got killed at the end of that and didn't regenerate. Right. And then... Because
I think I know what you were trying to get to, where it was, like, between his 2 visits, like, that it was it was... I think he was Prime Minister after that, the second time around. So they have a lot of explaining to do, Lucy. They got lots of explaining to do.
Timeline-wise, it's really confusing, and I don't really know like how all this stuff.
Which is why I don't.
Maybe at the end we'll see. Well, maybe at the end we'll see the Master regenerate into Missy, and then it'll all make sense.
And it'll
at least kind of.
They have to explain it, and I don't know how they're gonna squeeze in explaining the Doctor and Missy having a regular Cyberman plot, the Doctor beginning to regenerate, and giving a proper ending to Bill, because that was not it, and that is just a fact that I've just decided and stated.
Was not it.
That wasn't it. So they have to figure out, like, we need to see some sort of closure. Even if they do the unthinkable, like, there still needs to be a scene of closure, because that was the most anticlimactic, like, last moment for a full-time companion ever. But again, we'll get to the feels. We'll get to the feels. Almost there. We have, like, 2 more points.
So, one of the other things that I thought was weird was, like, the fact that Missy, and, like, again, we're not 100% sure, because it did leave on a cliffhanger. We still have 1 more episode left. But I was like, did he turn Missy back into being, like, evil? And then, like, it seems like he
Yeah, because she was like, have you met the ex? And she seems, on the same, they were on the same side visually, just, like, symbolically on the same side in terms of how they framed the shot. Which was obviously done on purpose. So it seems like it's hard to tell if that was a, hey, look, they're on the same side, or haha, are they on the same side? We'll put them on the same side, and then next week she'll have like a turnaround or whatever.
Right. And it does kind of it does complicate the Doctor's, like, relationship with the Master for sure. And I think one of the things, like, the Master was saying to Missy was, and I'm glad, like, I'm actually glad that they, like, changed her name. Well, not changed her name, but had her go by Missy, because it's so much easier to talk about this without being confused.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, so when the Master was telling Missy, like, oh, he's not gonna want to fuck with you now that he knows that you killed Bill, or turned her into a Cyberman, really, because she didn't kill Bill. Mm-hmm. And her, like, you know what I mean? Because, like, she doesn't remember that, like, because he did it. So, I mean, that, would be interesting. I'm also curious, like, what is it with the Master and Cybermen, and, like, why is it a thing? It's been
at least 3, like, major stories. It's just like they're the leader of the Cybermen every time. They're always turning people into Cybermen.
Like, what? Yeah, I don't understand that. But maybe they have some kind of pact or something, and that's how things work, and whatever.
Perhaps. So before we get into our Bill feels, I had one more thing. Mm-hmm. So, in talking about the Master being Missy and the Master, so Michelle Gomez and John Sims, there's obviously the big issue of gender fluidity of the Time Lords. And then the Doctor and Bill, in that little montage from the past, had a conversation about how, we're pretty gender fluid, we're an advanced race, yada, yada, yada. And so that entire conversation seemed to be like, you guys can change? Yeah, we're master races, we can do whatever we want, and we're so progressive, blah, blah, blah. But then the Doctor's like, back then she was my man crush, and that is what triggered the conversation. But then he was like, I'm fairly certain I was too. And I was confused because, so either, like, why would the Doctor be confused when the last 12/13 of him have been dudes? But also, does that mean that one wasn't the first incarnation of the Doctor? Like, is that not officially his first, like, his original form? Like, he grew up and then, like, however long it takes Time Lords to aged into, and I forget the actor's name right now, into that actor, and then that's why we call him one. Like, he's our one, obviously, but does that mean that there were female versions of the Doctor before the series timeline? I'm curious as to why he was confused, if he's especially if he's been male for the last 12 versions of himself.
Like, in 2,000 years. Yes,
at least 2,000 years of himself. Especially because, I feel like the time is matched up with, they just keep increasing it from every Doctor. So, I wonder if he's been male at some point, and I wonder if that was a hint? It's like, why would you I'm not sure. You know that your fandom wants you to change the Doctor from a white dude. I personally do not care if it is a woman. Like, I'm not like, it should be a woman. I personally am fine with the Doctor always being male. I would just like him to not be white all the time. But
Same.
You know your fandom wants there to be a female doctor. You know this. And you have, in other aspects of the show, seem to have listened to your fans and your audience, that is a diverse audience across the globe, and provided more representation and inclusiveness in some of your storytelling. Some problematically, and some you didn't succeed all the way, and some, you were like, why are you being inclusive? Oh, because inclusivity happened? Okay, great. Like, whatever. There have been problems with it, but there seems to have been a shift this season. So why would you include this conversation if you weren't gonna do it? If you weren't considering the idea of, or like weren't gonna actually make the doctor a woman next time? Why would you include that? Yeah. Why would you have that conversation at all? In terms of like him saying, we're pretty gender fluid and I might have been a woman at some point, It would be it's like a rude tease to include that and then be like, hey, look, this white guy from this show that like some British tabloid like broke the news of a few weeks ago and then have been strangely silent about since. So I don't know, it's just like a weird conversation. But it's also interesting in terms of like pronoun discussion, that the way that the doctor refers to Missy as she, even when he's talking about the master. Like, in terms of past tense, it got a little fuzzy towards the end of the conversation because he was explaining to Bill what was happening, what was happening. But he was just like, yeah, she was my man crush at the time. And so he could have said he, but he maintained her current pronoun. So that was interesting.
Right.
So I think it's time. I think it's time. But, it's time for Bill Feels. I feel like we should have a thing. But I don't know what it would be. Like, something she says or something, and then that leads us into Bill Feels. But, before we get into...
Too bad she didn't say anything this time.
No, I know.
I'm sorry.
I just meant, like, something cool she says... And it could be the same thing every time, but we only have 2 episodes left, and we're already in the middle of this one, so it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But, like, wicked, or something that she says, and then that's the start of our section. Before we get into the negative Bill Feels, not about her, but about her treatment, I have 2 lighter Bill Feel things that we can discuss before the anger. So Bill's wardrobe is always fly, as we know, because we talk about it literally every week. But I also, at the same time, appreciate that she does not wear the same... Like, she doesn't wear a different thing. She does wear a different thing every episode. She actually had several outfit changes, but that's because they had that little montage. But she does recycle and rewear her clothes. And it's just, like, an interesting thing to notice because, one, every character on every TV show ever, unless they are a character in uniform, or the doctor who basically each version of himself dons a uniform... They change their clothes every episode, and it's like, how much money do you have to wear a different thing every single day? So when a character repeats an outfit, and Bill has repeated at least the jean jacket, like print shirt outfit 3 times, and a couple of her other outfits she's worn more than once, it's like something that I notice. So I liked that she wore it again, but it's also interesting because you could say, oh, well, it's a character thing because she's like a working class, like girl who doesn't have a lot of money, but so was Rose. But I don't think Amy was a kissogram. Yeah. How much money could she make? And yet their characters
didn't have a job.
Yet their characters
every 2 seconds she was doing something different.
Exactly. And so every episode they wore something different. So it's just an interesting thing of like, what did they... I don't know. It's just something that I noticed that I was like, oh, she wears something different. Yeah, and I don't know why. Like, I was trying to come up with maybe why. Even, like, I like it, but I also am curious as to, like, after all this time, Rose wore a different outfit every episode, and she was so working class. So, yeah, I don't know. And then... I really liked the little montage, which actually made it hurt all the more in the end, because it's like, look, that was your homie, and you just stood there while she got shot in the chest, but, and then let her get taken away, and then took your time, and then we're in Billfield, and then took your time to go find her? But she was your homie, as they showed in the montage. Like, the Doctor and Bill spent more time on Earth doing normal things than the Doctor's done with any other companion. Like, every single other companion, most of the time, they hang out in the TARDIS, going on an adventure, then he drops them off and he leaves, and they stay in their life. And there have been a couple times where the Doctor shows up and, like, hangs out with Amy and Rory because something terrible is about to happen and he's stuck on Earth, or whatever. And I know technically Missy in the vault was keeping him on Earth, but Missy's hanging out in the TARDIS too, so he's not really stuck on Earth right now. But there's a whole montage where he's like having tea and they're eating crisps and they're out in the sitting under the stars having deep conversations. Like, this is the most like interpersonal friend, like on Earth, hanging out, doing normal stuff relationship the Doctor has ever had with a companion. Mm-hmm. And then I think about what happened in this episode and how he sort of just like, oh. Like, he was just very slow on the uptake. And so I'm confused. But then finally, last light thing before we get into the real feels, Bill's / Pearl's perfectly sculpted eyebrows. They just sat on her face. They just did a close-up on her face and her eyes. And I was like, dang, those eyebrows are great. They are, as the children say, on fleek. So
not as the children say.
As the youths say, they are on fleek.
The youths.
So how you feeling, Bayana?
I'm annoyed still. I also appreciated her eyebrows though.
It helped balance things a little bit, but not a lot.
And I watched this episode at like 1 a.m, and I was just like, at the beginning I was like, oh, this is great, this is funny, right? And then as the rest of it was happening, I was just like, I don't want this. I didn't ask for this. I think that like if it had been, well, okay, if they hadn't have portrayed it like she was gonna die, like regardless, like I think they didn't give her an out. Yes. Like, sure, she could have gotten captured and taken down and would almost have become a Cyberman. Fine. Yeah. But did they have to kill her? Did they have to kill her first, right? Like, okay, fine. There have been plenty of times where a companion has been taken by a monster, and like there's been times when they've been taken by Cybermen. And there's like the threat of them becoming upgraded, and then so they're fighting for their lives. But they took that from her in the first 10 minutes of the episode to the point where it was like, well, you would die if you left the ship. Yep. She could barely walk around. You're gonna die anyway, so we might as well turn you into a Cyberman. Yep. Right? So like, I didn't, like, there was no out. And that was fucked up. I also think that, like, you're literally this random ass blue dude, like, literally shot a hole through her. Like, that wasn't the Cyberman. That wasn't the Master. Absolutely. That was nobody. It was just this random ass dude who's a janitor. Turn out doesn't even, like, he's just the last one who's there. Mm-hmm. And he shoots, and like, okay, so like the Doctor was trying to talk him out of it or whatever, and trying to like get him to pay attention to him or whatever, and then he shoots her, and then the Doctor stares at her, lets the dudes take her, is like, when can we see her? They say never, and he still lets them take her through the elevator. Like, didn't even try to run after her. And then turns to the dude and starts asking him questions. No, knock that motherfucker out. And leave him. Yeah. Kick him in the face. Yeah. And then go to the elevator and go get Bill. Yeah, he spent a lot of time waffling. You can tell where they're going based off of the thing, right? You can tell what level they're on. Immediately, just go. He spent a lot of time waffling and talking. Waiting around looking for stuff. No, leave. Yes, absolutely. Like, he's so reckless with all this other shit, but for this, he has to wait and figure out what's going on. And then he immediately figured out what was going on. Like, he immediately knew what was happening. He figured it out, like, so fast. Like, I just, like... Again, like, he literally tore the entire, like, universe apart for Clara. To go bring Clara back to life and to stop her from dying when it was a fixed point in time. He mourned Amy and Rory for 100 years. He, like, would not stop telling Martha about Rose. Would not stop talking her ear off about Rose. But Bill died and he's like, alright, I could have some time. Don't have any time. Like, no type of anger. I was just sitting there like, what is... It just didn't seem like... In addition to me just being mad at him for not being upset, it didn't seem like it fit with his character. And so I was confused because I was like, does he know something we don't?
Because then there was that moment in this episode where it was like, oh, the doctor's having an emotion. Let me take a selfie. And I think that was like before.
That was stupid. I was like, Nardole, go the fuck away. Who asked
but was it before? It was before.
The doctor has had emotions before. You just got here. You don't know him. The doctor is having an emotion. What?
It was before Bill, right?
That's like the time when you were talking about he never notices the tears and how that was false.
It was before Bill was shot, right? Hold on.
No.
It was after?
It was when he found out, I think, that those things were from Mondas.
Huh. Right. Possibly. He was like...
It was like when they had gotten downstairs.
I was like, oh my goodness, I think he's having an emotion.
He has an emotion.
Yeah. That was annoying.
I just want to kick him in his big egg head. Why couldn't Nardole have been taken down? I know he's partly human, right?
I had...
Bill? Really?
And no.
Sorry,
it's sort of related. And so, not to get too real world, but I was thinking, I watched the episode, was trying to process it, and different things were coming to my head. And the shooting is triggering when you really think about it. Because here's a black woman in a strange space who happens to be human. And here's a person in blue with a gun shooting it at her, or pointing it at her, trying to figure out what role she is playing in whatever alarms are going off. Now, as a black person in America, that sounds a little familiar. And I know the UK has issues with this, but not as many as the United States. But I know it happens there. I saw like a tweet a few weeks ago that was like, this guy got shot by a police officer. No one's talking about it over here. People retweeted or whatever. But like, the fact that she just existed and was shot by someone who was scared
and like this is,
for his life or whatever.
And this is like the most violent death of a companion that
she literally had no chest.
Like, Clara got like a raven flew into her chest, and she collapsed.
Amy and Rory disappeared. They were taken by an angel and got to live their life.
They just got taken back in time by a weeping angel.
Donna just forgot.
Donna had to lose her... Like, none of the other companions died. Like, and I was like, really? A big-ass hole in her chest?
Yeah.
Like, it just seemed so... And, like... And then my other thing, right, is he's like, they only come up when the humans come. Yeah, and then they only took her. You're not human. You shouldn't be worried. Mm-hmm. Like, they didn't come and say anything to you. They were like, she's a human, cool. We're out.
See you there.
That was it. There was no reason for you to shoot. Like, they still came, right? Like, clearly this whole time, everybody else was human on your crew. You're not human. They haven't messed with you. Why are you...
So terrified.
Stressed. Like...
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And then twice they made it. Like, they just kept digging this hole deeper and deeper because she says two things in the past where it was like, why didn't he live? Mm-hmm. Promise you won't get me killed. And that she was scared. Promise you won't get me killed. And he's like, I can try, but you're mortal. It just won't happen. But you didn't actually try.
Right. It turned into a joke.
Yes, it turned into a joke.
And
Absolutely,
that was my thing, right? Is like, I think that, like, it was a joke at the time, and that's fine. But because we had just seen her die...
Yes, they purposefully paralleled it with,
It's not funny.
With all of that.
It's not ironic. It's just irritating.
Because he didn't try. If he had tried, it'd be different. If he had run after her, and even if, like, Missy had stopped him from going down there, or, like, there was some sort of, like, the blue guy was like, don't go, or Nardole said something, but nobody said nothing. They all kind of were just like, okay, we'll get her in a minute. What you mean? There's literally nothing, like, you tried to stop the guy from shooting her, but he didn't run in front of the bullet. He can regenerate, but he didn't run in front of the gun. Didn't do anything except try to talk the guy down.
And take the gun from him.
Didn't knock the guy down. Didn't Sonic the gun so that it didn't go off. The sonic screwdriver can do everything but what? Work on wood and turn off guns? What are the rules here? Because he could have moved any faster. He had two opportunities to move any faster than he did before the shot, and then after the shot,
and he
didn't do anything.
Why they thought this was a good idea?
For the writers for the episode?
Why do they think this was a good idea? And my thing is like, fine. Like, I had a feeling we weren't going to get to keep Bill. I had a feeling, like, even if she died, sure,
I mean, I'm still holding out hope.
I would be mad. But I do think there are different ways to, like, to do this.
Right. Whatever their intention.
Like, I feel like it's, like, this specific way. Like, Bill died. Like, you know, how many TV shows do we watch where characters... We both watch Game of Thrones. Where, like, characters get shot and die. And, like, you're sad, and you're fresh, and you're just like, this is terrible, but you're not, like, I'm pissed.
Well, the reason I'm not, I will be my full anger will happen next week if they don't undo this. But there's no way they can undo it. Like, or at least try.
Like, how do you undo that? She got a hole in her chest, and then she got turned into a Cyberman. I have no idea.
Like, and I think that the master's role in all of this is definitely involved. So them undoing, like, whatever they have to do to him could potentially unravel this situation. Because I don't know how. And we can, like, maybe make a list of, like, things that we would like to see next week at the end of the episode.
Maybe because the Master and Missy's timelines are crossing.
Yeah, I think time is going to unravel in some kind of way. And that they have to undo this.
Maybe it'll go back to before they met each other.
Yeah, like something.
And the doctor will actually listen to Bill. Like, she told him, I don't trust Missy. Maybe you shouldn't do this. And he was like, no, it's fine. You'll be cool. Just go with her instead of me. I know you don't know her or trust her and know she's, like, literally a murderer. But just go with her. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Fucking listen to Bill when she said, nah, fam, this is a terrible idea.
Or when she said that she was scared. Like, she said it was bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. But like, then she pulled out the big guns. She was like, she scares me. And Lacey Bauer over at Fansided was like, it's ironic that Bill, you know, that her, even if Missy is good, it was ironic that she said, I don't trust her, or that I'm scared of her, because in the end the Master was the one that she didn't trust, but the Master was the person she did trust during this episode. But like she pulled out the big guns, like,
but Bill was dead already, fam. She got shot in the chest
by not the Master, as you very accurately pointed out earlier.
Like, yeah, I was mad about the Cyberman part, like that just made it worse. But she got killed in the first 10 minutes of the episode. Like, what? Her doom already happened, fam. Like, she was doomed from the beginning.
How you get Rory and Danny Pink, and you're the main companion? You're not the side companion?
At the same fucking time.
At the same time. Because she's died several other times in this season. What other companion has died that many times?
Did people particularly like the episode where Danny became a Cyberman and then, like, overcame the shit for love? That was the corniest shit I'd ever seen. It was corny as fuck. Especially because Cybermen, don't they just put the brain in there, not the whole body? Why was his face working?
I don't know. It's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine.
That was sidetrack.
Sideburn. Season 8.
All my, like, angry feelings about Doctor Who that I suppressed because everything else is lit, they're all coming up. Past seasons, too.
It's fair. The number one lesson of this episode is listen to black women. She told you, Doctor, she told you that you should not trust her.
A bunch of times.
And that, and as you're saying, that wasn't even the full part of it. Like, the part where she got shot was really the part. And that wasn't actually Missy. That was really the Doctor's fault for putting them into a situation where Missy couldn't handle herself. Or, like, help at all. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why I think, well, actually, no, that's not true either. Because I was like, oh, it wouldn't make sense for this to be Bill's end when it's the penultimate episode. But that's what they did with Clara. Because I watched the last episode.
But then, like,
I watched the last episode and didn't watch the one before that. Because I skipped around season 9, just to be honest, in order to catch up. And Clara had already been, like, puffed up by she'd already been attacked by the Raven. So the next episode was like she gets a finale, and that's the other thing is that this is also repetitive. So she's Rory, she's Danny Pinked, so she literally also a black person turned into a Cyberman. Like, you literally did that 2 seasons ago. But also it happens in the episode before the finale, which is what happened with Clara last season. So then the finale is about, the doctor's next story, and then the companion, says goodbye or whatever, which I refuse. They better not do that to me. But it's just like, you did this, and it's not this particular example is not in the montage or there have been several moments this season that have been, callbacks or shout-outs to other things that have happened on the show, but this is just feels like repetitive writing. It doesn't feel like an homage to the last time we killed a companion, especially when they weren't companions.
Last year or whatever, last season. We just had that. That's
it's different than the other callbacks and that they've had, or the other that's just like this other episode. This is literally the other episode. There's nothing different about it.
Yeah, I've been doing, and the other thing is so I love Missy, and I've loved Missy since we found out, before we even knew who Missy was. I was just like, who is this woman? I really
hilarious.
like her. I still have no idea who the fuck she is, but she's great. And so I've always loved Missy. All the funny quotes, all the funny things that happened in this episode were from Missy. But it felt like they were shunting Bill's story aside for hers. Forget about Bill's relationship with the doctor. Let's focus on the master's relationship with the doctor, which I think that they have done before without it was never done at the expense of the companion.
No. I think one of the times it was at the expense of the companion because it was during Martha's season, which just kind of rubs me the wrong way now that I think about it.
That's true. But I do think that,
But she also had more agency.
The doctor was very much on some, we have to defeat him, right? And, he had conflicting feelings about him. But he still wasn't going to let Martha get,
And also she had more agency.
And I think it's really the writing of it. It's not even, because, yes, every time the master and the doctor get into the same in the same episode or have a situation together, that's gonna come up every time, right? And the overarching theme for this season is the doctor's relationship with Missy. But I think that to do that, first of all, why is Nardole there? Literally he does nothing. Yes. And I don't mean that as a petty thing. I just mean that as if you want to focus on, here's this companion, right? And she's learning about the doctor and she's doing all these things. And here's Missy and the master, and they have a really complicated and long history and relationship. Nardole is just
extra weight in there. He's just comic relief, as Missy said.
And then it's just by the end of this, right? It's the doctor with his white companion and his little 2 white friends. And I'm fine, okay.
You could go over there with your little friends.
But I just got done talking about how Doctor Who was doing better at this,
with your little friends.
Diversity and, representations of people of color. And I'm
I turned into a mama you think you can hang out with your little friends, but over here.
I mean, I'm just not here for these reindeer games is all I'm saying. I'm just not here for it. And I don't know, I just felt like there was a better way to explore that relationship without killing Bill off. I don't think that...
Or making her...
Their relationship should be at the expense of his relationship
or making her be a Cyberman. She doesn't even... We don't even get to see her face. She's just under a mask, a helmet. At least Martha had agency. She was able to go around the world and save the doctor when the master, it got so bad that he was had him held hostage and whatever. So regardless of how we all feel about say the doctor at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at least Martha was able to do something about it. But as you were saying earlier, there was literally no moment in this episode where Bill had a choice to do anything.
Bill didn't really
she didn't have a choice. She hasn't. That's also why I refuse to believe that she was gonna remain a Cyberman, and that I could see them having her remain a Cyberman. We get a goodbye in the form of here's a montage and she gets to be herself again, but as we have memories of her, yada yada. And maybe she has another cheery goodbye but I refuse to believe that they would be that dense and stupid, because she literally did nothing in this episode. And so if she remains a Cyberman, she can't do anything else there either.
And looked out of a window.
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't attempt to save herself, partially because the doctor said to wait for her. So she stayed there because he said to. Mm-hmm. So she really had no, so like she had, I won't say that she had a choice because she went outside and then like collapsed. But part of the reason why she didn't make a further effort, and so why would you write it like why would you write it like that? Did Moffat write this one or is he writing the next one? I think Moffat wrote this one.
And pretty sure he did. And I was actually like excited about was she the director, Rachel Talalay or something? I think she wrote or maybe directed. I can't remember. I'm tired. I think she directed it. The finales from last season. And those are some of my like favorite episodes, like the one where, and you said you skipped around, so you might have missed this, where the doctor is by himself
watch that one
for the entire episode. And that show was
Rachel
amazing.
Talalay.
And so I was really excited about her being back, and like, but this was Moffat. Yeah, so.
She's directing the next two. She directed this one and the next one and Christmas, and Moffat is writing this one, the next one, and Christmas. Whew, oh brother. Which makes sense because it's his last.
I'm over it.
His last ones, but I think the last episode he wrote this season was slightly better, and we're like, oh snap, Moffat! And then now, the last one was Extremis. Wait, he wrote from this season. Moffat wrote the premiere. Oh no, that was Christmas, the premiere, and Extremis. So the first of the 3-parters. And then these last 3.
I would say, well, we're only at 4, right? Because it's only this episode,
Well, 3, because Christmas is technically last season.
The pilot I liked.
Yeah.
Extremis was confusing.
Yeah.
The Christmas special was dumb.
Yeah. Did I even finish it? I don't think I finished the Christmas special. Oh, it might not have been available on Amazon. So... I don't know.
Whatever. I'm annoyed, and I feel like she didn't, maybe the last episode she got to do a good amount, but the one before that, she was kind of just, we were talking about that, how she just was kind of, floating around, not really doing anything. And the one before that, she was, really integral to the plot into, saving the world, and I'm like, why, it just felt like it...
dropped off. Yep.
Declined.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a weird way, and yeah, I mean, we have another episode. They can probably figure out a way to bring her back. It'll probably be in a weird way that makes no sense.
Classic Moffat.
But I do think they did her dirty, and I'm just annoyed.
So the person I was talking about earlier, Lucy Bauer, she's on Twitter. I think it's Lucy MB. She was talking about how this is basically classic Moffat. So he'll make a companion seem like they're gonna die, and then they kind of don't die. Usually they just don't. Because even Clara got to survive and live her life, go on adventures with with Arya Stark, and so on a fake TARDIS. So and then Amy and Rory technically live their lives out in New York. They just don't get to adventure with the Doctor anymore. I think. Though I'm still confused about exactly what went down in that episode. Just that the Doctor can't go to New York again. But it's look, another 3 companions in a row. The Doctor's gonna lose them. And then they get to live. He just can't hang out with them anymore. And I am concerned. I think that if they choose to start over, Bill will not be able to make next season, be in next season, which is the assumption that people are making, because that's just what has happened in the past. The only other way to get around, I don't know, it's we either get to keep her or we lose her, and I don't know that if we have to lose her, if he's gonna let her live. Does that make sense? Because the other 2 have gotten to live, but because he did that twice, and this is his last one, what if he's oh, I'm gonna kill a companion? Bye. I So I'm kind of concerned about that.
Well, I'm glad he's leaving.
One question I had before we go to quotes from the TARDIS: how did they fit Bill's hair under the Cyberman helmet? Questions that I don't know if they're going to answer, because they may just kill her off next week. No. I don't know. I did not see a trailer, because Orphan Black started immediately.
I did, and she wasn't in it.
Great, of course she is not. And this entire episode has made me think of The Flash.
Maybe they're just trying to, let us... Maybe they're just trying to...
psych us out.
It's a surprise, spoilers or whatever. But, again, it was the Doctor, Nardole, and the Masters. And I was just like, that's not why I was here.
It's not what I signed up for.
I was down for the Masters and everything, but I wasn't here for it to be the Doctor and Nardole versus the universe. It's not what I signed up for.
It was literally Bill and the Doctor, and Nardole could be anywhere else. Yeah. I know you don't watch The Flash, but this is very Flash from this season in that, so Barry Allen's love interest is Iris West, and on The Flash, on the CW, she's black, and the entire plot this season was this evil speedster is going to kill her. And so we watched her die 5 times because they kept, time travel and premonitions and scenes from the future to see this character die. Penultimate episode of the season, she died. It happens. It was ooh, on May 20 whatever, she's gonna die. So the whole season's them trying to prevent it, and they keep going to the future to see if anything changes, and then they go back and it didn't change. And then it was the day of, and then it happened. And then the teaser for the episode, she wasn't in it, and they had the little cry, everybody crying because she just died, and they had a scene from a funeral, and they're like, really, you went through with this, knowing the CW's track record with diversity? It's one of the more diverse of the big 5 networks, but it's still not that diverse. And then the next episode they undid it, or there was a fake out or whatever, and I'm like, can we repeat that? Because can you stop killing off black women? Because there was a whole thing with Into the Badlands, which is a show that I do not watch. I saw that. But listeners...
I'm on season 1, and then that happened, and I was like,
there was a major black character who people loved and thought was really cool, and then they killed her off in the finale of that show, or the latest finale of that show, and people on Twitter rioted. And so I just hope that the BBC and Doctor Who and Stephen Moffat know that if they kill off Bill Potts, there will be riots, and Stephen Moffat might not ever survive. I think he underestimates the plot power and will of black women, but movies and shows that don't have diversity these days, they're starting to tank. We're starting to make moves. So I think he'd better watch himself, and that if he did not already write and film a finale in which Bill survives, I think he should be very, very afraid. Now we can do quotes from the TARDIS. Might be one of the last 2 times we ever do it, because this podcast is called Time and Relative Bill / Blackness in Space, and if there's no Bill and if there's no blackness, what's the point? What's the point?
TARDIS, time and relative in space.
Yeah, I ain't about that.
So pretty much all our quotes are from Missy, because literally she's I was annoyed by the way that they positioned her in this episode, or more of the theme, but she's always great, so whatever.
Before we get to the quotes from the TARDIS, I think that the thing about Missy is that she was very prominent in the first quarter of the episode, and then she got really quiet. And I right now as I'm talking, I'm thinking, basically they replaced her her presence in the episode was sort of replaced by Mr. Razor, and then we find out that it's the Master, and so the Master overall gets the same amount of time, gets time throughout the episode, but it's split between Missy and Mr. Razor. So I don't know, I just realized that as I was talking, but I did notice that as soon as the Doctor comes out, she kind of gets quiet and doesn't say anything, and she doesn't do anything to help. And then towards the, at the end of the episode, she starts to talk again, and then, oh look, it's the Master or whatever. So I don't know, it was an interesting way to go about it, but also considering that it's Moffat, it's like both female characters.
He probably just forgot she was
But also,
there.
like, both female characters in this episode get, like, pushed to the side for male characters. And it's like, classic Moffat right there. Great. Now we can do quotes of the TARDIS, because I think my brain is all hot
quotes
taked out.
From Missy.
Yes, basically, quotes from Missy.
These are my plucky assistants. Thing 1 and the other one.
And I like that.
I appreciate any dig.
Right, I like that he's not Thing 2, he's just the other one. I am that mysterious adventure of all of time and space known as Doctor Who, and these are my disposables, exposition, and comic relief. We're not functions. Those were genders. I don't know, just literally everything she says, and then the way she says it, and then the accuracy of, like, exposition and comic relief.
Came out of the TARDIS twirling around and, like, dancing and, like, posing. And was like, girl, you know, you're supposed to be here to save people.
She's like, you're handsome.
This isn't
I think.
This isn't America's Next Top Model. So she said, Time Lords are friends, dear. Everything else is cradle snatching.
Oh.
Which is valid.
Accurate. He's 2,000 years old. And he was 900 and something years old loving on 19-year-old Rose Tyler.
Oh, SMH. You're probably handsome, aren't you? Well, congratulations on your relative symmetry.
Yes. I love that.
I'm going to tell somebody that. Be like, Kofi Siribo. Congratulations on your relative symmetry.
He's going to be like, what?
I know. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Nerds. That's what we are.
The last one is, I'm really trying not to kill anyone today. And that was me about this episode. Because just really trying not to... They're really trying to destroy my interest in this show right now. They had it, and now... Like, I hadn't watched in 2 seasons, y'all. And then Bill came on the scene, and I was like, oh snap, I'm back. But as I've said from the beginning, if Bill leaves, I think I might too, because she's the reason I came back. Just really. But a friend of mine, we were texting about the episode, and they were saying that what if they do kill Bill for good, which I hope they don't, what if they decide to make the Doctor a black woman because he felt guilty about her death?
Like, as like a Bill, like, shout out?
Yeah, because, like, usually his, like...
I'd be down for
that. They've mentioned off and on that, like, the way that the Doctor regenerates sometimes has to do with how he feels. So it's like, after 10, you know, he came back much younger, and the sort of theory that they posed as to why was because he was like, well, I want to feel younger or whatever, even though he's super old. And, you know... I don't know, there were other, like, similar thoughts of, like, oh, he regenerated into so-and-so because so-and-so. I don't know, those are mostly fan theories. The anger has made me tired. But, I mean, we'll see what happens next week, because, I don't know, I should expect riots if they do what they are implying that they're gonna do.
So, this episode wasn't very cheerful, but that's fine. The episode 11 was not cheerful either, so... And
as Robin would say, this wasn't fun at all. Like, Bill was creeping around that hospital, and it was so creepy, and then the pain, and die, and kill me, or whatever. Whew.
And then she was dead, so I was not having fun.
Absolutely, yes. I had fun for 5 minutes, and then they shot her in the chest, and there was literally a hole in her chest so big that you could see through it.
I was just like, what? Why is this happening? For what reason?
Yeah.
Who wrote this?
Yeah. So tell us what you would like to see happen next week. And, I mean, the answer obviously should be Bill survives. Hashtag save Bill, hashtag let Pearl stay. But if you are listening to the episode and have some theories as to how they could undo this, because I don't think any character who's turned into a Cyberman has undid it, but time can unravel, time can be rewritten, time is not linear, and there are 2 masters in the same place. So obviously something with time is gonna be screwed up, and then obviously the ship...
There's a black hole.
There's a black hole. They could get sucked into the black hole, and none of this ever happened. You know what would be really cool? No, it wouldn't. Yes, it would. So this is one of my proposed theories, and we're going very long in this episode, but most of that was rage, so just forgive us. So here's a cool thing that I think could be cool. If somehow the Doctor regenerates, and we get to keep Bill, but what if she didn't remember 12? So she had to learn everything all over again with a new Doctor. So it's like a new companion and a new Doctor, but it's the same companion we had because we liked her and want to keep her. But the dynamic is new and she gets to ask her questions and be the same Bill. And maybe they'll get different answers because the Doctor's different. Like, she asks some of the same questions and then he answers her differently because he's a new person because it's a different Doctor. That's one way to go about it, BBC, even though you've already written this and filmed this episode. But, you know, time is a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, and you could just fix it and do what I said. Save Bill.
Do what Connie said. Check us out on blackgirlscreate.org. You can read Connie's writing at the New York Daily News. Follow us on Twitter at WeBlackandNerds, at Yana_Hollows, at Robin_Ravenclaw, at Constar24, and use the hashtag Tarbis to talk about your thoughts about this episode of Doctor Who, any news about Doctor Who, everything Doctor Who, and blackness. And join our Slack where we have a channel dedicated to conversations about Doctor Who.
So thanks for listening. You can join us next week, and we'll see if there are weeks after that. You can join us next week when we discuss episode 12 of Doctor Who Season 10, The Doctor Falls. Dun dun dun!
So Season 10 finale. It'll be the last episode until Christmas.
Yeah.
So
cross your fingers, y'all, because we might have a riot on our hands, is all I'm saying.
Hopefully they started off so well.
They started off so well.
They had a couple stumbles in the middle.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it was mostly like,
really
good. Huh? What?
Yeah.
What? Why? And then this one's kind of like,
and it was like...
That's kind of the trajectory of the season. It was like 5 good ones in a row, and then everything got confusing.
It was like, what's happening? What? Why?
Which actually is very Muppet in general for me, because I enjoyed season 5, which would be like the first 5 episodes of this season, and then it got confusing, and then it got kind of anger-inducing, and now it's just kind of like, what? And then maybe there's like a uptick at the end, and then we'll see what happens next.
We shall see.
Right. So I won't be here next week because I have to go to a wedding in some timey-wimey place.
On Beryllium.
Yes, I'm going to be on Beryllium. So I will see y'all at Christmas if I'm not upset. So yeah, thanks for listening, and please tweet us your thoughts.
The black girls have the box.